Well, for more, Brad Olsen, senior economist at Infometrics, joins us now from Wellington. Brad, politicians pointing fingers in all directions today. How much can the government really control?
Well, realistically, we know that there are a lot of global pressures. That's absolutely true. New Zealand can't do anything about the Russian invasion of Ukraine and just how much fuel prices have gone up. But what we also know is that building costs here in New Zealand, rental prices and a number of other what economists call non-tradable or domestically based inflation is at its highest level on record. So I think we've got to be realistic. Everyone is in pain at the moment and everyone sort of needs to share the blame. The government is certainly not out of the woods on that one. Yep. We know that there are a huge amount of pressures. Realistically, I think the government's again trying to sort of do too much with too little when it comes to an economy under pressure.
Well, constructions and rental costs are behind this spike, both up 18%, Brad. Why?
Well, we know that particularly when it comes to the likes of building, we're trying to do more than we've ever done for a good 50, 60 years. 50,000 consents over the last year at a time when we're also trying to do more commercial construction. We're also, the government has pumped a significant amount into additional infrastructure, but we haven't been able to bring in any additional workers when it comes to our construction workforce. We know that materials are incredibly limited as well. The amount of jib, for example, well, we haven't got a lot of that. So we're trying to build probably, nearly double what we have previously looked to do. That's putting pressure on the economy. When it comes to rents, again, we know that the amount of money that's gone out to support households has been welcome, but is also continuing to put pressure on the economy at a time when the housing market is still fairly cooked, and we know that those price pressures for Kiwi households are intense.
Yeah, well, Brad, have we hit peak inflation here, or is there more pain to come?
Realistically, we would sure hope so, right? Inflation's already painful enough without it going higher. Realistically, though, today's numbers might well show that there's potential for a little bit more yet. Regardless, I think we've sort of probably gone mostly as far as we can. At this point, we wouldn't expect it to spike too much further. In fact, we could well see it decelerate just a touch as we come into next quarter. The worry, though, is that inflation could well stay higher for longer, and that more persistent level of inflation means that Kiwis aren't looking for any sort of reprieve when it comes to pricing pressures anytime soon.
Brad, why is Australia doing better at curbing inflation or keeping inflation down than us? I see that they're around 5.1%.
Realistically, I think Australia's probably just playing catch-up with New Zealand. In the March quarter, their inflation rate quarter on quarter was ever so slightly faster than New Zealand's. They had a little bit more runway coming forward, but even the Reserve Bank of Australia is having to move in the same direction as New Zealand, and that's increasing the amount of stimulus that it's trying to withdraw from the economy by increasing their equivalent official cash rate. So realistically, I think at the moment everyone around the world is playing a little bit of catch-up. New Zealand's slightly ahead of the curve, but remembering as well that our inflation is lower still than the likes of the US and other European nations. That's cold comfort for Kiwis who are currently having to pay more for all of the absolute essentials.
Absolutely. Well, Brad Olsen, thanks so much for joining us here on 8 o'clock.